Hey there, welcome back to my garden. Today we're going to be planting in a few more things in this no-dig bed that's behind me. It's right next to our driveway. We've been working in it periodically over the last couple of videos, adding in some things here and there. And last time I mentioned that I was wanting to plant in some perennials that would be kind of a drift in a spot that was a little bit open. And you can see behind me that I've added in, or I'm going to add in some Verbena bonariensis. This is the Meteor shower Verbena, and I think it's going to just fill in the spot in such a neat way, and I'm excited to get these guys in the ground. We're going to also add in some white perennials in this spot. They're new to me, classic flower, but I've never had them in my garden, so I'm excited to add those in. And then we're also going to go around to a couple other beds, planting in some more white flowers that I just am kind of obsessed with white in the garden right now, and I've been really wanting to add in more white flowers. So we have some phlox that we're going to be adding in, some yarrow that we're going to be adding in. It's a new variety to me. And also in this bed behind me, I'm hoping after I get these plants in the ground, that I'm just going to add drip to them really quick so that I can kind of button up this bed, put down some mulch, and get it looking really nice and pretty and kind of more complete. So so we're just going to go ahead and get started getting these guys in the ground. But first, I'll show you the plants and we'll talk a little bit about them. And then we'll get them in the ground and get this project underway. All right, so here's the space that we're going to be working in. As you can see where the verbena is, that was the area that I was really looking for some sort of a vertical perennial that would just fill in that space. I didn't want to do another shrub because it's surrounded by shrubs, and I didn't want to get something that would get too big. So I saw the verbena at the garden center and wasn't totally sure on the color because I knew that I had Nepeta here in the area also. So I just compared it to a Nepeta that was in bloom there at the garden center and saw that it was actually a really sweet complementing color because the verbena is a little bit more of a pinky purple than the bluish purple of the Nepeta. So when standing back, it's probably kind of hard to tell with the sunlight on these guys right now, but standing back, they actually really look nice together. And I knew that they would go well with the pink of the Veronica that's back there behind that. So we actually have 5 of those set in this space. They don't get too terribly wide. Let me show you a tag really quick. So these are the Meteor shower Verbena. They do get pretty tall as you can see. I think they're pretty much their full height right now, 20 to 30 inches. And then their width is only, it says spacing is about 8 inches. So I really don't think that they spread out very far from this width that they are right now. And often these are sold as an annual. You can see on the tag, annual except in zones 7A through 11B. I am a zone 8B, so these should come back for me. I have some of the traditional Verbena bonariensis in my gardens that go to seed and spread around. They haven't spread too crazy for me like they do in other people's gardens, but I have high hopes that these guys will come back year after year and look beautiful in this space. And then I also have 2 more right here and right up on top. I'm hoping these 2 will get enough sun. I know these ones down on the bottom will get enough sun, but these ones are a little bit more tucked underneath the maple tree. But when I stood back on the driveway and saw that these areas just needed a little bit of vertical interest too, I thought that they would be good additions to this spot as well. So then you can see right along the front, there's a couple more nursery cans. These ones, I'm really excited to get into the ground. I've always liked this flower, but I've never had it in my garden. This is just regular old Gypsophila or baby's breath. I think that this is such a versatile plant. It's supposed to be very, very hardy. Obviously, we see them all the time in flower arrangements and things like that. So when I saw these at the garden center, I just thought they would be a really neat kind of wispy, whimsical plant to have in the garden. And I really liked the color of the foliage here. It's a little bit different. It's not, too deep green. It's kind of, again, the bluish green. And when I placed them here in this spot, I thought they looked really nice against the kind of brighter green of these dogwoods. And then next to the lemony lime nandina. So I have 4 of them here. This is going to be an interesting spot just because there's a stump there that is, obviously underground, but it makes it very difficult to dig there. So the spacing of these, the placement of these is going to vary based on if I can dig right there in that spot. So these 2 kind of just tucked along here. This one I'll move forward. I just couldn't get it balance better down lower, because I don't want it too close to the lilac that's right there. That'll get a little bit, quite a bit bigger in that spot. And then right here along the side, I also had just also picked up this, what's called a lesser catmint. I've seen these in people's gardens before. I never planted one, but I just don't know why they're called lesser anything. I think that they're just beautiful, lovely flowers, wonderful foliage. They're supposed to be drought tolerant, deer tolerant, just like regular Nepeta is. I don't know if they're overly, I don't know how related they are to catmint. I don't know why the lesser is in there. I'm not really sure, but I saw it at the garden center and I thought it was really sweet and it was a really good price. So I thought I'm going to find a spot for that and tuck it in. And I think it'll be nice along the edge of this bed. It'll also be one that can tolerate kind of the dogs like running by it and stuff. I don't think it's a very, fragile plant. Usually when plants are like a little bit more blousy like that, they can take a little bit more foot traffic, similar to this hardy geranium here. I don't know that the baby's breath will be able to take much. It has a little bit more rigid stems, and when the dog steps on those, they will break off. But hopefully, once the dogs clear this corner, they won't be traipsing through the garden up in that area. So I think that's it for what I was going to add into this bed. So I'm just going to get all this stuff in the ground, and then I'll show you how I add drip to each of these plants. I just really wanted it to get set up for these shrubs, especially that we just got in. And because this garden is on such a slope, that the drip system is really, really helpful for properly watering these guys nice and slow, so that the water doesn't just rush off as I do it with a hose. So let's just go ahead and get these guys in the ground. All right, we got everything planted into this bed that I planned on getting in and then some. And I also just broke off one branch of the Verbena, which is pretty good considering it is a rather fragile plant. The stems are hollow, so they do break pretty easily. So that's just something to keep in mind. If you are planting these into your garden, just take that into consideration. I planted them sort of in the inside of this bed, so hopefully it's not where the dogs are going to be traveling through and possibly breaking them. So I'll just turn you around and show you where the plants all ended up, and then also talk about the plant that I added in at the last second that I wasn't planning on putting in. And then we'll get going on putting in the drip and possibly even laying down some mulch. I have one bag. I don't think that'll get me too far, but it'll give me a little bit of a start, at least in this front area. All right, so first, as you saw, I brought this pallet over. I have a stack of them over here, which I was intending on using for a compost bin. Brought it over just to be able to set the plants on because there is not a flat spot on this property, especially in the grassy areas. I can't set plants, nursery cans on the grass without worrying about them falling over. So brought that over, got everything moved out, and then placed in. So as you can see, we did the lesser catmint right there, and then I did 4 of the baby's breath right along the edge. I was able to get the holes in pretty well spaced out. I did end up moving the Nandina over just a smidge. I think that's probably the 6th time that little guy has been moved. So hopefully this is where it will stay. But anyway, I got the 3 right there of the baby's breath, and then 1 right up there on top of those rocks after I moved one of the rocks out of the way, so that could just kind of spill over. It just has an echinacea behind it, so I don't think those 2 will crowd themselves out at all, just surrounded by some things that just won't really get too big. And then I put in 1 of the Verbena here. I was going to place it back a little ways right back here, but this spot will get a little bit more sunshine, and I realized when I was standing down on the driveway that this spot right here needed something high as you looked through the garden bed. So that's important, I think, to step back and look at where you will look at the bed from, and then kind of decide placement also from there. So another one just placed kind of in the middle. And that's a nice thing about the Verbena, is that it can just be tucked into really narrow spots. It is wispy, things can kind of grow through it, and the little flower baubles just kind of float on top. So that being said, I guess I didn't really show you guys what the actual blooms look like. They're just a ton of tiny flowers in these little bursts on top of the stems. So pretty unique, pretty cool variety. And these ones are sterile, so they don't go to seed like the traditional varieties. So right here you can see this is where the cluster originated. This was the original purpose for me starting in this garden today. The Verbena right here, there's 5 right here, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then this one right back here was originally right here, and I moved it back both because that spot I felt like needed something. Again, as I was coming down here onto the driveway and looking up, I just felt like there needed to be something right there, and now that fills that spot perfectly. And then I also did have this huge Playin the Blue Salvia that I needed a spot for. My mom and I went to Bauman Farms the other day, and they had buy one get one free of plants that were in these specific white pots. I don't remember what they called them, but they had several different varieties, but they had these beautiful Playin the Blue salvias, and my mom wanted one and she only needed one, and so she's like, well, you can just have the other one. So I have this, and I was thinking I was just going to leave it in the container, but it was so big for that small pot that I was needing to water it a couple times a day just to kind of keep it perky. So I thought, well, this would be a good spot for it, and it is. I think it's just absolutely beautiful. Again, it's not the same color as the Nepeta, so even though they're sort of purpley next to each other, I don't think that they compete, and I don't think it's too much of the same color. I think it's just super pretty. And then with the Verbena right behind it, and then I like that this is a bit more weighty right here too. I think that just fills in that spot a little bit better than the Verbena did. So Playin the Blue Salvia is also typically sold as an annual, but this, similar to the Meteor Shower Verbena, it is hardy, they say on the tag, down to zone 7A, which, like I said, I'm zone 8B, so possibly this will come back. I had one in the garden last year that did not come back this year, but we'll see. I don't know. Maybe this one will, and it would be great to have it in that spot. So I'm really happy with where this bed is at. I'm really happy with how it's filling in. The time that we planted in is under a little bit of distress, but I think that will be fine. After a little bit, it'll get rooted in, I believe, and it'll be okay. So now what we're going to do is put in the drip emitters to all these new plants that we just put in. There is a supply tube that runs through this bed. It's just a solid black poly tube, and off of that I have just individual 1/4 inch lines that go from that to each individual plant. At this point it's so full, I probably could have just run regular drip tubing that had, emitters every 12 inches or 18 inches or so, but I don't know. I wanted to be very specific on where I was watering, and so this is what this bed has right now. So off of the supply tube, I'm just going to run the 1/4 inch tubing. So really quick, let me just show you the supplies that I'm going to be using to be putting in the drip. I just have my little basket here that has all my drip supplies in it. So I have some black tubing right here. I don't have too much of it, but you can see this is just the 1/4 inch tubing, does not have any holes in it. So I'll just be attaching this with couplers into the supply line and then ending it with one of my emitters right here. I thought that I had some more 1 gallon per hour emitters, but I think that I just have 1/2 gallon and 2 gallon. I'll have to look up. I have these two, and I'll have to look up what they are. Typically, I just use 1 gallon per hour emitters on the plants so that I know that they're all getting the same. If something needs more water, I can add on an extra one. But that's typically what I do. So I'll have to make do with what I have. And this is good to see what I have, because I have a lot more drip to fix in my beds. So I'll have to get on ordering some more of those. But basically, I'm just going to poke a hole into the supply line. I'm going to put in a coupler like this. So I'm going to attach the tubing and then the drip emitter on the end of that. Sometimes the supply line is close enough to the actual plant so I can just put this directly into the supply line and then, water straight from there. But for the most part, I have to use the coupler and the tubing. So I'm just going to plow through this really quick and get this done so that I can just get all of these set up quickly onto the drip system. I got all the drip in, and I will be honest with you, drip is my least favorite thing that I do in the garden. I pretty much want to cry every time I install it. It just I don't know why, it just is so frustrating and challenging. So I started to run out of the 1/4 inch that just didn't have any holes in it, and so I decided down on this area, since it's pretty densely planted, fairly densely planted, and I was just kind of getting lazy, I decided to use the 1/4 inch tubing that had drip emitters already in it that are every 6 inches. So I just kind of looped it around. I connected it into the supply line that you can see back there. It's just the thicker black tubing. Attached it to that, and then just sort of ran it alongside these plants, and didn't have to get too close to them because it's every 6 inches. The water's going to drip and just kind of down, go down the flow of the garden. There was actually already a drip emitter that was really close off of the supply line to the Salvia, so I didn't have to put one specifically to that. But I just ran it through the Verbena. And then up here I had to make the brown. This is just more of the 1/4 inch that has the drip emitters every 6 inches, just a different color. I had to extend that out a little bit to wrap it around the hydrangea, and then to try to get it pretty close to the root ball also of the Verbena that's right there next to it. So I had to pull out a little emitter hole that was right there and put in a goof plug, because this had another tree here, and I had to, take off the drip that was on that one so that I could put this guy in, take that one out, all the things. The other ones up on top just have individual emitters to those, that'll just be the 1 gallon per hour, and then a couple of them have the 1/2 gallon per hour emitters on those. And yeah, so the next thing to do, I'm just going to go grab my hose. And for those of you who don't know, this is how I run my very fancy drip system. I just pull my hose over, and I'll attach this into the hoses that are in the bed. And I attach it on right there, unkink the hose, and you can hear it running. And then we go around and see if it's working, and clearly we see that my goof plug is not plugging up the hole that it's supposed to be. But before I go turn off the water, I'm just going to make sure that I see that it's coming out. You can see everywhere that there's a little drip emitter. It's dripping out, and that is going to be good. We're just going to go check really quick up here. These are the ones that I just put in. This one needs to be attached down a little bit. Yeah, everything looks to be working okay, except for that guy. Not sure what to do about that. All right, we got 1 bag of mulch down, and it made a pretty good dent in the bed. About maybe, I don't know, a fifth of it, maybe. So I'll definitely have to go get some more bags of this mulch. And, this isn't the ideal stuff. It comes in the bag. It's kind of the color enhanced stuff in black, but gosh, I love the look of it. I just think it makes the bed look so sharp and so complete. So you can see already a dog ran through and stepped on that guy, so it's splayed out a little bit. not totally cracked, so hopefully it rebounds. But I'm really happy with where this bed ended up. I did go in, as you saw, and I fixed the drip or the spray issue that was right here. And then I also did put down some drip emitters to the erodium, and there was already one running to that one up there. So everything in this bed has drip ran to it. As of right now, I just need to add a little bit of mulch, but for the most part, this bed is pretty much at a good place, and I'm glad about it because this bed is not the easiest to work in. It's really slanted. It's obviously very full at this point, so a lot of trying to not step on plants and ruin things and, you know, slide down the hill and all that stuff. So I think I'm going to wrap up this video with this project. I was going to go do some planting, but this ended up taking a little bit longer with the drip system and getting all that set up, and I don't want to make this video too long for you guys to watch. So I'll wrap this up and we'll get back to planting in those white perennials and a few others that I still have left over to be getting into the ground. So we'll be doing that very soon. Thank you guys for hanging out with me while I did this project. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, let me know, and we will see you in the next video. Bye.